Hello, everybody, and welcome to Firebase After Hours. I am super excited to be here with you today. This is a very busy week for me. I was on a live stream earlier this week on my personal channel. Then I went to Google I/O Connect in Berlin yesterday and the day before for a community event. And now I'm back on the live stream, so super busy. And I'm also excited because we're talking about a very interesting and exciting topic. And so the topic is, how far can we push Firebase App Hosting? But before we talk about that, I can't do this on my own. So I've got support for me. So let's bring in my co-host. And also, before I bring him in, there's one thing that we need to make sure, which is, let's be nice to each other. So if you have anything bad to say, why don't you, say it into a pillow and not say on the stream, but say something nice instead. So with that out of the way, let's bring in Noe. And here he is. Hey Noe. How's it going, man?
It's going. That intro was a vibe. That was wonderful.
A vibe.
Yeah.
Do you think we should be vibe coding today?
Actually, that might be kind of fun to see if we could vibe code the thing that we're bringing our guest on to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our guest has given me my favorite compliment I've ever gotten from anybody ever. He told me that I'm really good at doing that weird thing that nobody ever wants to try to do because it sounds ridiculous.
Which is?
And I was he says you're really good at getting the weird unsupported stuff to work. It doesn't work well. It doesn't always work. But when it does work, it's pretty cool. And I think today we're putting it on him to do that. So I'm pretty excited to see what he's got for us.
Yeah, don't you just like that? I mean, I think that's my favorite part of this this show. We can, bring on people and grill them. For us is just relax, kick back, and then ask the hardball question and see how little beads of sweat are forming on their forehead.
Yeah. I have so many questions for our guest, and he's probably one of those. He's outside of the general people in this room. He's probably one of my favorite people to talk to on our team, just because I'll come to him with this really crazy idea, and I'll be like, Jeff, could you help me with this? And his first response is like, absolutely not. That sounds ridiculous. And then 24 hours later, we'll come back and he's like, so you kind of nerd sniped me, and I got stuck on it last night. So I built this thing over here that does the thing you asked for. And yeah, he's wonderful.
So it's a little bit like in Star Trek, right? When they say, we need to fix this, how long does it take? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, no problem. It's going to take a couple of days. Do it in 2 hours. Sure, we'll do it.
Yeah. Right. That's Jeff, 100%.
Yeah. All right, so let's bring him in. Let's see if he's still here, after we, talked about, grilling him. But it seems like he's still here. And here he is. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, you guys really talked me up. I hope I can live up to that.
Of course.
Since this is my first time, I brought a fun fact that I thought you guys would like to know.
Yeah. Cool, bring it.
I'm the third person whose name starts with J that has come on the show to talk about app hosting. So we had James and Julia. Now we have Jeff.
All right. So we're setting the bar very high there. So you can only come on the show to talk about app hosting if your name also starts with J.
I think you're actually the fourth. I think we had another Jeff one at one point.
Oh, yeah, that's
but
right.
He didn't talk about app hosting. Right?
Yeah, Jeff Hong. Yeah. For JenKit.
We talked about JenKit. Yeah.
Third J for app hosting.
Yeah.
Fourth
J overall, maybe.
So that's an awesome fun fact. You probably know the game that we're playing with all of our guests. So we'll do this with you as well, which is, what's your favorite way to indent code? Tabs or spaces, and how many of them?
I think I'm gonna sidestep this argument because in the JavaScript world, a lot of people use Prettier, which just kind of auto formats code. So I say write what you want and then use Prettier, and then no one has to think about it.
Yeah, that's very cool. So the thing about code formatters, I love them, right? Because they completely take the any discussion out of the room. But if I find it sometimes, just sometimes in Swift, for example, which is my favorite language, it formats the code. I'm like, man, this is actually not easier to read, but harder to read, especially if you have a function name and then a couple of parameters, and then it breaks the lines, and then they're all like, I don't know, and I wish I could say, generally yes, but not in this instance.
Fair, yeah, fair.
Yeah. So folks on the stream, we've put up a poll for you, so you can play with us. So you can tell us, do you prefer tabs or spaces? And if you are like Jeff and you use a code formatter, then why don't you tell us which one is your favorite code formatter for the language that you use? Noe, what's your poison?
Well, I just write everything on one line and add semicolons. Just very, 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 very long.
You're like llms.txt, right? But for what you do.
Yeah. You got to scroll left to right to read my code instead of up and down. I have these really wide monitors, which helps.
Yeah, good stuff.
Word wrap is turned off, by the way.
Here's the thing. So I use word wrap, but I find that you have to turn it on for every single file and every time that you go back into the file. So I'm talking about VS Code here. So why does it not keep this in mind?
Well, that's why I just write in one file.
Yeah.
Just all functions, all main logic, just all one line. One file.
Yeah. Okay. That makes it easy.
Yeah. That's how I import node modules too. I unwrap them into one long.
Okay. So one more thing I need to get out of the way before we dive into the topic. So in case the internet breaks down and the stream goes down, people, don't worry. We'll set up a new stream and we'll get it onto the main YouTube, to the main Firebase YouTube channel. So just in case the stream goes down, it happened to us once, just come back to the Firebase channel on YouTube and you'll see the new stream go up there. But fingers crossed, it won't happen. So what's the topic for today? App hosting, we heard, and from zero to hosted, pushing the limits of Firebase app hosting. So Jeff, maybe you can give us the elevator pitch for app hosting and why you came up with this topic. Why is it relevant?
Yeah. App hosting is Firebase's new web hosting product. So Firebase hosting has been around for a long time, since before Firebase was part of Google. And it's really great for static websites. The idea is you generate some static files, throw them up on the CDN, and you're good to go. With the rise of frameworks like Next.js, Angular, SSR, the general kind of swing in the web world back to rendering what you can on the server, sending the HTML over to the client so they can see it, and then adding some functionality on the client with JavaScript. Firebase hosting could support it, sort of. You could always connect functions to it, Cloud Functions. And James from our team built the frameworks experiment that let these server-rendered frameworks work with hosting. But in terms of like a fully rethought from scratch product that's built for these server-rendered frameworks and also with really good GitHub integration, that was the idea for Firebase App Hosting, and that's why it exists. Why we're doing this talk today is app hosting, by the way, was announced last year in beta and then went GA this year, a few months ago at Cloud Next. We really highlighted app hosting's Angular and Next.js support, but there are a ton of different frameworks out there. And I wanted to say, like, while we don't have official adapters for all these frameworks, they do work pretty well. I mean, it's all JavaScript. And so I wrote a blog post kind of exploring this and figured I'd put my money where my mouth is and see if we can do it live and get everything I say that works in the blog post to work here, and maybe some other stuff too.
That sounds great. Should we show the blog post first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Is it this one?
Yeah. So the gist is that this goes through, talks about what app hosting is real quick, like I just did. Mentions Angular and Next, which are kind of the two headline features for app hosting. So for Angular and Next app hosting, when you deploy your code, app hosting will recognize the framework, and without any extra config from you, we'll build it and deploy it, without any like config or adapters or anything like that. It's all built into app hosting. So these work, and we know that, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on them this year, this talk. So this year, I think I'll be spending more time on them this year. But I have a project here, a Firebase project, and I already deployed in Angular and Next.js backend just so we can see that it works. And the goal that I want to cover is adding a bunch of other backends here too. But here's kind of the default ng init SSR project running on app hosting. And here is the default next create code running on app hosting. So we know these both work, and we're going to dive into some more interesting stuff, some other frameworks.
Okay, sounds cool. So I had one question there. So when you said Firebase App Hosting can automatically detect which framework I'm using, how does that work?
Yeah, it's a couple different things. So under the hood, app hosting runs your server code in Cloud Run, and it puts that behind Cloud CDN. So that's kind of the core infrastructure of app hosting, is like you get the auto scale in Cloud Run, but you get Cloud CDN in front of it so that anything cacheable can get returned straight from the CDN, quicker responses, and reducing load on your Cloud Run server. But basically, Cloud Run expects containers, and then there's this thing called Cloud Buildpacks that is on top of that Cloud Build can use, where you can give it some Node.js code in this case, and Cloud Buildpacks know how to create containers from Node.js code, so you don't have to write your like Docker file or whatever. So app hosting uses Cloud Buildpacks and then has a layer on top of that that's kind of extra smart for building Angular and Next.js. So it's kind of this cascading thing where app hosting itself can look at your source code, and it looks for certain config files. So I think for Next.js, it looks for the next config file, and if it's there, it knows it's Next.js. And I'm sure the engineering team has a couple of fallbacks to be smart about, just in case you're missing that. And I think we have James here from also on the app hosting DevRel, who is in the chat, who might be able to answer this also, because he spent a lot of time on framework support. But basically, app hosting tries to be smart about it. If app hosting doesn't know, it falls back to Cloud Buildpacks. And Cloud Buildpacks have a ton of special cases for building just kind of like default Node.js stuff and running it, or even a couple special cases for Svelte and stuff like that. So there are a bunch of layers that your app goes through where it'll try something else, and only if it gets to the end of all those attempts will it throw up its hands and say, sorry, I can't do that.
Okay, that sounds like it's very complex. Does that have any impact on the performance in terms of deploy time? Does it mean that I'll have to wait minutes before it has figured out, oh, this is a Next.js app?
So we're working on optimizing that right now. Overall, the build step for their frameworks often only take like on the order of 15 seconds or something, like when you're running next build. And for those that don't know, app hostings integrates with GitHub by default. So the idea is you kind of push your code change, and then app hosting picks that up and builds your app in Cloud Build before deploying it. So this whole build is happening in Google Cloud. So yeah, right now the build can take kind of on the order of a few minutes, and the team's looking into ways to optimize that, because it is nice, and the original Firebase hosting is more like seconds, though it doesn't have a build step built in. So yeah, there's kind of minutes to build, and then usually takes a few minutes to spin up the Cloud Run instance also and migrate traffic from your previous instance to the new one. So yeah, all in all, a deploy can take between 5, sometimes up to 10 minutes. But the team is really looking to optimizing that, especially for stuff like Firebase Studio, where you want to iterate quickly and share with your friends. That can be a long time, to be honest.
Yeah, and I imagine that the initial deploy, that's kind of okay if it takes a little bit longer, but then there might be ways to optimize that by doing some incremental compilation, and you don't have to do like the whole shebang to figure out like how does that work? Am I thinking along the right lines, or am I being overly naive?
No, definitely. Like, yeah, some build caching and stuff would go a long way. I think there's, like we said, it's kind of complicated, and there's a kind of a bunch of things that the team's looking at right now, both kind of just in cloud build stuff like caching you can turn on, and then also kind of the underlying systems that have some optimizations we can throw in.
When you say it's kind of complicated, is that an understatement?
Yeah, I don't know. It's it takes a lot, I guess, to go from I have some JavaScript code to I'm going to build it with my special build tools and throw it onto a system that can scale it up super, as big as we want, to as many instances as we want, or to 0 if there's no usage. So yeah, I guess there's a lot of stuff in between. But the idea is you push your code and you just wait for, a little green check mark in the console and you're all good. So you don't have to worry about that.
That sounds great. Okay, so we know that we have those the support, the built-in support for the main frameworks. Which ones were you thinking of trying out today of the other ones?
Yeah. So I was thinking. So basically, we have the main supported frameworks, and then kind of the next level from that is community supported frameworks. So this is where app hosting has this adapter spec defined, where at the end of your build, it expects this kind of metadata file. I think I have an example of it somewhere down here. That gives some important information about like what your framework needs to run properly. So like, where are the files even? Are there any special cloud run settings you want to set for your framework based on performance, its individual performance needs? So basically, community adapters can be maintained by different frameworks that have their own set of adapters for different providers. And as long as it outputs this bundle, this metadata file at the end, then app hosting will know how to build and deploy it. So we worked with the Nitro team to make an adapter for Nitro. And Nitro is kind of a framework for frameworks. So there are other, we're going a few levels deep here because, for example, we have React, right? React is a web framework. Tanstack Start is a React meta framework. So it's a framework for doing server rendered React. And then Nitro is kind of the meta framework. So Tanstack Start runs on top of Nitro. So yeah, there's a few levels here.
So somebody really decided to go deeper.
Yeah. But basically, we worked with the Nitro team to make a Nitro adapter for app hosting. And that means that Nuxt, Tanstack Start, Solid Start, Analog, and any other frameworks that use Nitro will work. And yeah, James said frameworks all the way down. That's certainly correct. So I was thinking we could, kind of the format for this, if you guys are cool with it, is I'll just make a new folder, run the init command for whatever framework we want, and then try and deploy to app hosting and see what happens.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. So if we want to do Tanstack Start, we can. And the thing I want to show here is that like app hosting should work with very minimal work on our part or any custom stuff. So I don't want to do like a app hosting template deploying here. I want to start with the framework's default getting started steps and then just watch it deploy.
Nice.
So let's see.
Jeff, can I raise like a general web developer question with you real quick?
Yeah, sure.
How come every time I start a new web project, I'll pick out like the latest bleeding edge framework, and then I'll come to someone like you, and you'll be like, "Now we have this thing called Tanstack, and it's used to build these types of apps." And then I feel like I need to change my framework
Right?
that day.
It's like you turn around and then 10 new JavaScript frameworks have sprung up.
Yeah. Which I just do whatever Jeff tells me to do, honestly, when it comes to web development.
I hope I don't lead you astray. Yeah, I think so for the web, right? You're locked into 3 languages, right? You're locked into HTML, you're locked into JavaScript, you're locked into CSS. Like that's what the browser uses. And so at the end of the day, that's what all these things boil down to. And so I think
you could use WebAssembly, right?
That's true. You could.
And you could hypothetically write it by hand, but that would be nuts.
You could. I don't think we're going to try that one today. But I think in general, you're locked into the 3 languages of the web. And so unlike in the server world where all these different programming languages pop up to solve unique problems, in the web world, frameworks pop up to solve unique problems where like, for certain types of apps, certain ways to deliver the HTML, JavaScript, and CSS change, and people are always trying to innovate on that. So it's overwhelming, but I actually, I was working on a bug in the old Firebase UI the other day, and that's built with Clojure and just kind of like in general, a 10-year-old web development stack. And I was like, wow, things actually have gotten better in the web world since.
Yeah, I remember.
I thought you were about to say like Clojure solved this in a special way that I can't solve today.
Well, Clojure it was really impressive, and some of the stuff it does around tree shaking, like getting rid of extra JavaScript code that your app doesn't actually need, was very revolutionary at the time, and I think still some bundlers don't quite do what Clojure does. So, it's pretty cool. But yeah, the new stuff is easier to use.
All right,
Jeff, I have this really great project idea.
Let's see Tanstack.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you need me to get you the other window on screen?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm just going to copy the get started commands.
Okay.
All right. But yeah, you can bring up the Visual Studio Code.
This one.
All right. So the Tanstack instructions say to do this.
And it's always safe to just copy and paste commands you find on the internet. Is that what we're learning here, Jeff?
Of course. Do at your own risk, but we're on the site.
Yeah.
It has HTTPS, right? It's there's some kind of confidence it's real.
Well, we should probably put out a disclaimer there.
It created it in a subdirectory. There's I do start basic star. Will that move everything up a level?
I know the answer, but I want to see you run it first. The answer is yes.
Right? Okay. And then, so start basic shouldn't have anything in it, right?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. Oh, whatever. We'll leave that there. Well, I can do. Okay. So now we have the Tanstack start stuff. I think I have to install, so let's hope my internet doesn't collapse under the npm install wait. And I guess while it's loading, I'll talk about what we're going to do next. So Firebase App Hosting has a concept of backends, and that's kind of all the pieces you need to serve your app. For each different framework we're deploying, we're going to create a different backend. And it looks like npm install. Let's see. Peter, you look squished.
I do. I know. Yeah, I noticed. So I'm. Maybe I'll turn off my video and turn it back on.
He has the Carnival mirror setting turned on somewhere.
I don't know what's going on here.
All right. Well, I'm going to create a new app hosting backend. So I already have a Firebase project the same one that I had. Oh, yeah. Anyway, I already have a Firebase project. We'll pick the same one that I used for the Next.js and Angular backends we already saw.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll call this one Tanstack start. All right, and there it goes. Just take all the default stuff. Excellent. So now if we look in this directory, we should have, I lost my,
I think it's Command B if you're on a Mac.
thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Welcome.
So now that I ran Firebase init, I have an app hosting.yaml file. And this is just some other, we had that framework metadata file where a framework can specify a bunch of stuff for app hosting. And this is where like I, as the developer, can specify settings for app hosting. So one thing I'm just going to do is set my max instances to 1. And that way, while I'm experimenting, I don't accidentally scale up my app hosting backend to like 100 computers all running at once. Yeah. So with that, we have our code. I said that it would work without any extra config. I just did the little app hosting.yaml thing for best practices sake. But we should be able to just deploy now. I'll move it over here so it's a little bigger.
So you don't have to push to Git in this scenario. You can deploy straight from...
Yeah, so this is pretty new, actually. Firebase App Hosting now supports just deploying directly from the Firebase CLI. And I think for our use case here, where we're just trying to throw a bunch of code app, and we're not doing like a real project where we have a Git repo and all that, this will just be faster. So
just to see how it works.
Yeah, just to see how it works. So, okay. And I think last time James and Julia walked you through the full like end-to-end setting up a GitHub repo, connect to app hosting and all that. So
yep,
we'll leave that to them and just do quicker deploys here. So like I said, the rollout itself can take a few minutes. So I'm just going to kill the CLI right now. But if we hop back real quick to the app hosting console in my browser, we can see there's a Tanstack start backend now. Mm-hmm. And it says deploy method Firebase CLI, and it's working on the build. So we've started.
Oh, so that all the files uploaded, and it would have just sat there like polling to see when it like the rollout had finished?
Yeah, exactly. So the CLI, it had a little message saying starting rollouts, this might take a few minutes. It's safe to exit now.
So we can do the next one.
Oh, I see that now. Okay.
And it had confirmation that it uploaded the source code already. Yep. So now we can start the next one when we wait for that one and cross our fingers that this one works. So what do you think? Do you both trust me that, if one Nitro framework works, we're good and we'll move to the next thing? Or do you want me to do another Nitro framework?
We'll just take your word for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so I kind of have a soft spot for Astro.
Let's do Astro. I love Astro. I use it for my blog. And we use it for the Firebase blog. That's why I use it for my blog.
Yeah, Astro is great. And a cool thing about Astro is that with Astro, you can run a whole bunch of other frameworks in your client code. So pretty handy. But for Astro, we have a community adapter in the works. It's still kind of experimental status. So it's living in this PR right now. And we're going to use it anyway.
Bleeding edge stuff.
That's right. And Astro get started. We'll follow the Astro getting started docs. Mm-hmm. All right. So back to VS Code. I think the create Astro command makes a subfolder also. So let's see.
I love the little
Yeah, I was about to say it's very whimsical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called Houston since, we're rocket themed in Astro. So, all right, we'll build.
That's why the port is 4321, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if you work on that team, you probably also have to make lots of dad jokes. I'm just guessing.
Jeff, real quick.
Yeah.
Does app hosting support Angular 19? The last time I checked the docs, I believe it said support wouldn't be available until October 9th, 2025. Is this still correct?
Ooh. Yeah, app hosting does support 19. I believe it supports 20 also, which was released at Google I/O, I think. Or at least is in the works. James knows the details of that.
Yeah, let's
definitely
let's
19.
I was gonna say, let's throw James under the bus since he's in the chat, not in the room with us.
No, but yeah, James works closely with the Angular team on Angular Fire, so he would know. But I believe it's Angular 19, definitely Angular 20, either yes or soon.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, so we have Astro. Now in the blog, I just had a command to add the adapter. Oh, we got to go in the folder first. We have an Astro folder. Yeah. So we just have to add the Astro adapter for app hosting. All right. And for Astro, there's a config file. And we just need to update that to include. So we're importing from the app hosting adapter for Astro.
Mm-hmm.
We're also setting the output to server. So Astro by default builds everything statically. And so that makes it a great fit for the original Firebase hosting, which is like designed around static web apps. But since app hosting is really meant for web apps that have a server behind them, then we're going to do server mode, and that unlocks a bit more stuff in Astro too. So you can dynamically generate pages, check cookies for auth or whatever. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do. So we're going to do that. Save that. And then we'll go back to the terminal. Firebase init app hosting. So we'll create another app hosting backend basically in the same project. Call it Astro. Give it a second to spin up. And we'll deploy. Firebase deploy, only app hosting.
So the reason why
Peter,
you say only app hosting is that you want to make sure that we're not, accidentally spinning up Cloud Functions or whatever. So, in this case, because we don't have any other stuff defined in our Firebase configuration file, it wouldn't even be required. It's just, have it. Is that correct?
Just have it. I feel like I end up, in these directories that have a whole bunch of test files and whatever, and I accidentally deploy things sometimes. So I just, for good measure, doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Peter, have you noticed this thing about Jeff? He doesn't test that it runs locally first. He just deploys straight to prod. And I don't know if he's a test and prod kind of guy or if he's just that confident in what he's doing.
Test and prod. Can't we just prod and prod?
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. That's prod and prod.
Let's see. Well, actually, can we jump back to my browser?
Yep.
So we've got our Astro app building right now. Let's test the Tanstack app in prod. See what happens.
Yeah, it's finished. Nice. Green check mark.
Boom.
All
right. So this is the default project for Tanstack Start.
Nice.
We're good. We did it.
Woohoo!
We need
we've got reactions here. Let's try them.
All right. All right. Applause from the studio audience.
Nice.
All right.
And then, Jeff,
Mhm.
do you have test environments in app hosting, I assume?
So
Is
there
what
are a
the
couple
question's getting
things.
at?
There's the Firebase emulator suite, which has support for app hosting. So you can run that. And then, so Firebase, the original Firebase hosting has preview channels, which let you deploy to a temporary URL and test things out. App hosting doesn't have that. It's like, something we want eventually. But for now, the kind of recommended thing would be, either in a test, like a staging Firebase project, a separate Firebase project, you could set up app hosting to deploy to, or even in the same Firebase project, you could set up a different backend that's like your staging backend, and that will have its own domain. I think I bored Peter.
All right, so I dropped out.
I'm back.
I'm back.
Moment there.
Peter joins
We're
the
back.
stream and everybody leaves.
Okay, Jeff, you were saying.
Yeah, test environment. So app hosting doesn't have preview channels like the original hosting does. So for now, either if you have like a staging Firebase project that has like test Firestore data and stuff in it already, you could set up an app hosting backend in just that project. Or if you only have one Firebase project, you could create a staging backend for app hosting that you deploy to first. That'll have a separate URL, and you could test things there. So, and there's also, I don't know if it made it through before, but there's the Firebase emulator suite too.
Okay, so it's a little bit like what people used to do previously, where you basically set up different Firebase projects for your different environments.
Yeah, Firebase projects, or if you wanted to use your prod data but have like a staging code deployed, you could just create a separate app hosting backend in the same project. So you could have like Astro prod, Astro dev as a separate backend.
Yeah.
But eventually, something like preview channels would be the right answer.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Well, I think we've got Astro too. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Testing in prod is working so far. So far,
the next one.
Yeah. So far, we've done kind of the community supported stuff, like where there's an adapter that's either kind of Nitro's adapter is kind of built into Nitro itself. So app hosting is a zero config provider. We didn't have to do anything to get it to work. For Astro, we had to install the adapter and set it up in our config file. And now we're just kind of on our own, right? Like we have the supported frameworks, we have the community supported frameworks for app hosting. Now we're at frameworks where app hosting is going to throw its hands up, but we can rely on Cloud Buildpacks that know how to build Node.js to deploy more stuff. So this kind of goes through all the steps that the build packs take to try and start your server. There's a special case for Svelte, and then there's all different kinds of things you can do for Node.js code. No, you mentioned Go at some point, I think. The build pack source is in Go, and if you want to look at what all the special cases are, they're all here.
Can you increase the font size a bit? Nice, thanks.
Package JSON, that's script start, Angular.
So, it's Node.index.js. It has a special SvelteKit thing, special Nux thing. So yeah.
Can you scroll down a little bit further? Oh. I like reading docs on your screen better than mine, because then I feel like I have to pay attention. Start. Main. Huh. So hypothetically, we could deploy like just a straight up Node.js app.
Why be hypothetical when we could actually do it?
Look at you. I really should have read the pre-stream docs that people send out.
No, this is better. That was a perfect softball of me. It's perfect. All right, so yeah, let's hop back to VS Code and do a quick Express server.
Got it.
Figure this out. All right. So I think we need to do. I don't think Express has a really easy get started CLI command. So we'll just do a real quick generic npm init. Install Express and hop over to the code view. Make a new file called server. And then I'm just going to copy the really minimal Express code from my blog post. But the important things here, so we pull in Express. We tell Express the port with this special port environment variable. This actually comes from Cloud Run. So basically when we try and spin up the server in Cloud Run, Cloud Run provides what port it's expecting your server to listen on. So we'll use that. And then we'll just fall back to 3000 if we wanted to do something crazy like test locally before deploying to prod. Our app is going to have one endpoint that's just, root, where it'll respond with a hello world. And then once it's listening, our server will log, hey, we're listening on the port.
It's very supportive. It's rooting for us.
And then I think what I have to, oh yeah, there's one more fancy thing I have to do in the package.json to get things going. So app hosting expects you to have a build command a build script in your package.json. And if you don't, it'll blow up. So we're going to do a little no-op build script that just prints out, I'm a no-op build script. And then also we need a way to start things. I think I called the server.mjs. And then we'll provide a start script also. Speaking of things changing.
Why did you call it MJS?
Yeah. So Node had its own module system called CommonJS.
Mm-hmm.
And then the browser standardized on ESM, ECMAScript modules, which are a different module system. And the two aren't really compatible. Node, by default, if you call something .js, will use CommonJS. And that's where in your code you do require something. Most people are moving to the ESM module stuff now. And a lot of bundlers will set this up for you also, where you say import instead of require. And so I just wanted to use that syntax, and to use that in Node, you call something MJS, module.js, and then it knows that it's ESM.
So do people in the JavaScript ecosystem realize that all of this might sound and look like magical incantations to people coming from other communities, where you can just import a package without having to specify which bundler you want to use? I'm sorry,
Peter. I felt this so much when I first started doing all of this. I was so confused. I was like, and when I asked the JavaScript people about it, they're like, "Oh, it's simple. Look, you just call this and this and this and this and this and this." And they go through this chain and they explain in 1986 we were able to send, the first TCP message across the wire. Vince Cerf can explain this to you if you ever get a chance to see him. And it just, I get so lost.
Yeah, I think people love drama, and so it's fun to have competing module systems where you can follow the drama, right? So I think all the complexity is worth it for that. But no, the world is slowly standardizing on ESM, and so hopefully in a few years, we won't have to
It'll
think
be
about it
easy.
as much.
It'll be actually easy.
All right.
So is this ready to go now?
Yeah. So we didn't make a app hosting backend yet, I don't think. So let's init app hosting to make an app hosting backend.
And then just to let you know, before we get too far off track, somebody would also like to see you deploy SvelteKit. So if we have time.
Okay.
SvelteKit? Yeah.
Yeah, let's jump straight to SvelteKit then after this gets started. This one is probably the most YOLO in terms of testing in prod because I, had to change a bunch of code and stuff. But we're going to do it anyway because where's the fun in testing locally? So again, we uploaded the source code, the rollout starting. So let's not even go back to the browser. Let's just stay in VS Code and jump to SvelteKit then.
I like.
But I have to go to the browser to get the SvelteKit init command.
Oh,
actually, I think my blog post has the SvelteKit init command. Yeah. All right. It's just npx sv create.
Okay.
SvelteKit. Minimal.
Yeah, what if I wanted to use like bun? I guess it wouldn't work, right?
Yeah, so since we use the Node.js build pack, it expects Node.js. So Node is the only, like bun and Dino are different JavaScript like server-side JavaScript runtimes for those that aren't interested in the JavaScript drama of competing things. And so yeah, for now, app hosting just Node.
Okay.
With a caveat that I'll talk about right at the end. Cool. All right, so now we should have a SvelteKit directory, right? I think we already ran npm install. So we'll do another Firebase init app hosting, create a backend called SvelteKit.
Boom.
All right, and deploy. So if we have time, I want to do one last thing, which is contradict myself about the static apps on app hosting.
Let's do it.
Think we have time? Okay, cool. So basically, even though it takes an extra step or two, static apps do work fine on app hosting. All you need is a static file server running in Cloud Run to serve your static files. And Firebase has this open source library that's a static file server called Superstatic, which feels a lot like the original Firebase hosting. The config is the same and all that. So we can run Superstatic, which is kind of like running the old Firebase hosting, inside app hosting to serve our static app. So I think that's worth a try. So let's make a new directory called static. You know what? Let me actually run the create command because I think that'll create a whole new thing. So let's say we have a static app called React SPA, single page app. It's built with Vite and we'll use TypeScript also. So this is kind of the standard Vite init command for building a static React app with TypeScript. All right. And we'll go into that folder, npm install. And so now we have everything we need to build a static React app. And all we did so far was use the standard vinit command. If we just add superstatic to this, and then give ourselves a start script that spins up superstatic, now if we go to our React SPA directory, we have a start script that spins up superstatic.
Mm-hmm.
It uses that port environment variable again. And theoretically, this should serve a static app just fine. It's not going to do any caching on the CDN. That's a separate superstatic config that we can go into if we have time. But for now, just for the sake of showing that you can serve a static app on app hosting, I think we should just make a new backend here and try it out.
So is this just a hack, or is this how is this the official way of doing this?
I mean, it's right. Like the two supported frameworks for app hosting are Angular and Next, and that's where like we have a docs page that shows a version matrix, and it's like for Angular 19. So-and-so fully supported, we'll do bug fixes, all that kind of stuff. This is a bit more DIY where you're providing the build and start commands yourself, but it's totally valid, right? Like it's not fully automatic like Next.js and Angular, but it's definitely totally valid, and it would be the way I would recommend for, like, say you're a Google Cloud customer and you're on Cloud Terms of Service. Firebase, the original Firebase hosting isn't on Cloud Terms of Service because it uses a third-party CDN. So say like you need to host a static site, you can't use the original Firebase hosting, you're already signed up for cloud. Like this is a totally valid way to do it, and probably the easiest way to do it on cloud. You get the CDN built in, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 2 lines of code, essentially, right?
Yeah. Cool. All right. So while that goes, let's hop back to my browser and just see how successful we were with the other ones.
Oh.
All right. So I warned that Express was a little risky. It looks like that one messed up. We had a request for SvelteKit. Looks like that one's all good. So let's check that out. Welcome to SvelteKit.
Nice. Well
Seems
done.
good to me. Did we miss any others that we deployed and then left?
So Jeff, Express, look at that. That's usually how my console looks, just red everywhere.
Nice.
Maybe you could talk about the CDN versus dynamic routes. We have this question where will static work if I have a SvelteKit app that has 2 route groups, site and admin? I want everything below site to be static and everything below admin to be dynamic. And I believe from you and me talking offline when you're trying to tell me how I've goofed up my system, that the cloud CDN should be able to cache the static values and serve them statically, whereas the other dynamic pages will always be served dynamically. Do you have any comments specifically on SvelteKit in this?
Yeah. So SvelteKit specifically, you actually wouldn't use the static kind of trick that I just showed. SvelteKit has its own server that it can run, and Cloud Buildpacks knows how to run that server. So you don't have to do anything special for SvelteKit. You just run the init command and then deploy it to app hosting, and it'll all just work. Cloud Buildpacks know how to handle it. So, dynamic routes like server-generated routes will work fine with app hosting. They'll run from Cloud Run. Your static stuff, the first request will come through to your Cloud Run instance, and then if you have the right cache headers set, will be cached in Cloud CDN after that, and then serve directly to users without coming back through to Cloud Run.
Cool. And then there's a bunch of things. They look like mostly my comments I posted up.
And by the way, just in the blog post, which I think we put in the chat already, we have something for SvelteKit. So yeah, basically SvelteKit is supported with no extra config. And then I also have the static steps listed here. Where's the... Yeah. So I have kind of the basic how to add superstatic to any static app, and then also specifically the steps for a React app with Vite. Lower down are also how to set up superstatic with cache headers. So if you want to try this, the steps are here, and I have tested it myself also, and it all works. Yeah.
So just to confirm, back to SvelteKit. Let's go work automatically.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, we don't have a specific app hosting adapter for it, but since Cloud Buildpacks understand it, it'll just work out of the box, no extra config. And let's look at our static web app. All right.
Ooh.
So if you're not into the meta frameworks of Next.js or Remix or Tanstack Start or whatever other React meta framework, you can just run good old static React and it should work fine.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's really impressive. I mean, I think we've probably spent 40 minutes actually working on this now, and we've deployed how many? 4 different frameworks?
1, 2. Express didn't work. If we had more time, we debugged that. 3, 4, and then I did 5 and 6 on my own before the stream.
Yeah. I mean, that's super impressive. And, except for this one tiny little glitch there, it did work fine. And it seemed to be pretty automatic to me and, not much configuration that you had to do. So that is very impressive. Even more so, given that all of this seems to be like either early stages or, that one thing that even wasn't merged into the main branch and still lives in the pull request. And also the community supported adapters seem to be working quite fine. So yeah, I'm really impressed.
Yeah, it's great. Since app hosting builds on cloud products that have been around for a while, the cloud team has done a great job with Buildpacks of understanding a bunch of Node stuff already. So app hosting kind of just automatically benefits from all that.
Nice. So I have a slightly unrelated question about Buildpacks. So I've heard the term Buildpacks float around quite a bit now. So they're not just there for Node and other stuff, right? So if I understand correctly, this is like a way to spin up an environment and detect what kind of application is in there, right? Is that like a correct characterization?
Yeah. So how I think of it, at least, is like I have JavaScript code or I have Python code or whatever that I want to deploy to Cloud Run. Cloud Run expects a container. I don't feel like figuring out how to build the container and put it in artifact registry and get it all spun up. What a build pack will do is do that all for me. So whatever language I want to deploy, there's like a list of supported languages. Cloud Buildpacks will detect what I'm trying to do, and then knows how to run the build, knows how to create a container, and then knows what commands to run on that container in Cloud Run to spin up the server. So it takes away all the pain of like doing your own Docker files and such.
So hypothetically, Peter could build a build pack for Vapor, right? Do you still use Vapor,
Swift.
Peter?
Yeah. So would it be a build pack for Vapor, which is the server framework for Swift, or would it need to be a Swift build pack?
Probably Swift. We could see if we can.
Oh, there's one. What did it say? 10 years ago or 10 days?
10 years ago. Oh, this one might not be. I'm not sure if that one will still work. Maybe. But yeah, basically it would be for Swift, I would think. And then probably maybe have some special cases for the different Swift server frameworks.
Cool. Okay. Right. So I think we need to wrap up because I want to experiment with this. No, just kidding. We've got more time to talk about stuff.
Maybe we should do
Okay.
like an impromptu live stream with Jeff where we try and build a build pack for Vapor. I don't know if Jeff knows how to build build packs, but
It seems
Jeff, do you
like
have
he's
experience with that?
very into meta stuff. So
Yeah. Well,
That's right. Yeah, if there's a meta build pack out there, I'll do that. Actually, if we have another minute, I'll show you a website that looks very boring but is actually very exciting.
yeah, let's do it.
So
this one, Hello World.
yeah, this one, Hello World. So I mentioned that app hosting only like builds Node.js. But app hosting has Terraform support. And so if you're okay building your own container, you can use Terraform to serve whatever container you want on app hosting. And so James, who's in the chat, built a Terraform pipeline for Flask. So this is actually a Python app, Flask app, serving on app hosting. So it's got Cloud CDN in front of it. It's serving from Cloud Run and deployed via app hosting. So even if we went pretty custom here with, using build packs and using the right NPM scripts to build and deploy our app. But if you want to go even more custom and just build your own container, you can deploy with Terraform.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Noe, how are we doing on answering questions from the chat? It seems like we did take in most of them so far, right?
We did take in quite a few. There's a few that I'm not sure we got to. One of them wants to know if we can create games like CSGO on Firebase. And I believe that you can support the backend operations that CSGO might have, and then use like the Unity SDK to build a front end. Would that be the right answer to say, Jeff and Peter?
I don't even know what CSGO is. I'm
what?
I'm
Peter,
Googling
oh
now.
my gosh. I'm going to take the afternoon off. Don't tell Arthur. And you and me are just going to play CSGO all night for you and all day for me. It's going to be fun. We're going to get a little room. Pew, pew, pew. It's like the biggest game that that's on the internet, I think.
Okay. I've clearly lived under a rock.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Gosh, I'm gonna look at our calendars and see if I can find time for us to play.
See, I knew that I would find a way to blow your mind one day.
Yeah, but I would look at the Unity SDK for building the game, and then building the backend things. You could certainly use the Firebase SDKs there for Unity.
Yeah.
And then let's see here. SvelteKit. James has been answering quite a few questions as well.
Any answers you want to highlight here?
I don't think so.
I think it'll be in the replay of the stream, right? So
it should be. All right. That being there was a question about Firebase Auth somewhere towards the bottom. Does Firebase Auth work automatically if I deploy to app hosting?
Oh yeah, that's a great thing that I forgot to mention. So app hosting has some special stuff for the Firebase SDKs where, all right, we're going to get meta here too, I guess, but
it's a theme.
Yeah. Well, basically with app hosting, you can initialize the Firebase JS SDK with no arguments. It provides the right kind of setup stuff to do that. So yes, Firebase Auth you can initialize the Firebase SDK automatically with app hosting, and then use Firebase auth in your app. So like, there's no, you still have to write your own auth code for signing people in and stuff. But the initialization will be automatic. I hope that's clear. Like, there's no like
James
automatic
looks
shell
to
around the
have
page.
James has a differing opinion, a dissenting opinion. He says right now auth is not automatic with Firebase app hosting. I should have read more of these comments. But something the team is aware of, and we're working on it. So I think this is like for server-side rendering use cases with auth.
Okay. Yeah, we we have a code lab, the Friendly Eats code lab, and in there we have an example of Anyway, in the code lab for Next.js, we have an example of checking cookies for auth using the Firebase server app APIs. So we show how to do it, but it's not fully automatic. And the reason for that is that each framework often has its own way of dealing with cookies and handling sign-in. So James has been working hard actually on adding a whole bunch of auth support to the SDKs, but depending on your level of automatic, not automatic yet.
But
James is also one of those people on our team that's just like, he does a bunch of things and you like talk to him and you're like, wow, you're doing a bunch of things. I didn't realize you're doing all these things.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, right? Like he built the original Firebase hosting frameworks experiment to get these server render frameworks working on the original hosting. So his goal for a long time has been get Firebase working better with modern web stuff. So yeah. All right. Besides that, I mean, logs here. So we could go through and debug our Express server. I think that's probably maybe a little boring after an hour of deploying web frameworks. So we don't have to do it right now, but
Jeff, I love nothing more than debugging live in a live stream with the pressure of the world watching.
We can do that next time. But yeah, so let's before we wrap up, do we have any final questions from the audience? So people on the stream, if you've got any questions that you're desperate to get an answer for, now that we have Jeff here and James also answering questions, please add them now. I'll give it 1 or 2 more minutes, and then while we wait for questions to come in, I can already spill the beans on when we're going to go live the next time, or any guesses, Jeff, what we might be doing in the next live stream.
Oh, I don't know. What?
Noe, what's your guess, Noe? Do you already know?
I think I'm wearing a T-shirt. I don't know if you can see it. It says Firebase Studio on it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So we're going to do Firebase Studio the next time around. So that's probably going to be very interesting. And also, I don't know if we can, if we will know at the beginning of the session what we'll achieve at the end. But we'll definitely have Firebase Studio, and Rody is going to come on, and we have a tentative date set already. It's going to be in July, and it's so very likely going to be July 30th at the usual time. So people, you can already pencil this in, and don't forget to hit the bell icon and subscribe to the channel. You know the drill.
We gave my daughter our phone to record a video the other day, and she was walking around like recording like her chalk drawing, and at the very end she's like, don't forget to like and subscribe, and then she like stopped recording. I was just like,
what have we done?
Subscribe to what? Yeah.
Does that give you the new goodbye on a phone call? Like, Like and
Yeah,
subscribe.
that's how I end phone calls with my parents. So maybe that's where she got it. um, I believe we have a few more questions. So Alcatraz says the new app hosting is getting hit hard by bots and crawlers. I'm worried about costs, how to deal with that. Jeff, do
Yeah.
you have any suggestions off the cuff?
Yeah. Peter, could you swap to VS Code again real quick?
Sure. Here we go.
So when I ran Firebase init, it created an app hosting.yaml file, and this lets you set your Cloud Run settings. So one thing you can do is cap your max instances. And what this will do is just like if you did get hit with a bunch of requests, it would limit at least how much compute and memory you use in Cloud Run, because you could limit it to like one instance or however many your normal traffic requires.
You can also limit concurrency too, but that solves for crashing the hardware, not necessarily how much of requests you pay for, right?
Yeah, like you might have to kind of tune these two, right? Like if you set max instances really low, you might have to raise concurrency, but then if concurrency is too high and your instances are crashing, then you might have to raise max instances a little bit.
So you would lower concurrency and then raise max instances. So that way, like you don't overload them. Like you're still going to crash the machines no matter how many instances you have if there's like 80 connections going to each machine, right?
Yeah, I guess I was more thinking like cost, like like spinning up all these new machines.
That's fair.
But yeah, so this is one thing you can do. There are budget alerts in the Firebase console, though they're a bit delayed. But you can kind of get a warning. App hosting. So one thing about the way app hosting works. So Cloud CDN, usually what you do if you're using Cloud CDN as like a cloud customer is in your Firebase cloud project, you would set up a load balancer and then set up Cloud CDN yourself. What app hosting does is the app hosting engineering team has its own cloud project that runs the Cloud CDN for everyone. All app hosting developers using app hosting. And so in that project, they have Cloud Armor turned on. And if they detect someone getting attacked, the engineering team will get a ping, like a page, and they can decide how to mitigate that. So there is a layer of protection there. I wish it were Cloud Armor per app hosting backend, so you could set whatever settings you want. It's something the team is investigating because, yeah, it is a problem, bots and crawlers and stuff. But I hope that helps a little bit.
So there's already Cloud Armor turned on for like all the app hosting instances. It's just a setting that we can't control on a per app hosting basis, but it's a setting for all app hosting.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And I mean, obviously, the biggest fix for all of this would be like billing caps in your Google Cloud Billing account. But maybe someday that would be awesome.
All right, Jeff. Pop quiz. What are the 3 or 4 regions we can have a app hosting backend deployed to?
Ooh, I'm kind of cheating because every time I ran Firebase init, it asked me this, so I saw. So if I get it wrong, it's kind of embarrassing, but I might still. There's US Central 1. I think it's Europe West 4. And Asia East. I'm going to guess 3, but I don't know if I got that right.
So hypothetically, whenever you go get Brazil, whenever you go get Eastern Europe, whenever you go get Africa, whenever you go get these other regions available.
That was smooth, Noe.
Thank you.
So yeah, I think there are a couple more regions in the works. I would say, so app hosting launched and it was only US Central 1. And then we had tons of requests for Europe and East Asia. I think if there's a specific region you want, could you please submit support tickets or go on user voice and ask for the region? Because what we've seen is that there haven't been that many requests for other regions, so they've been deprioritized so app hosting can work on other features. But if there's one that you really care about, please make some noise and that'll help get it prioritized.
speaking of user voice, this person wants refresh token rotation and reuse detection for Firebase auth. I don't think there's an easy way to do that, but if you go and submit your idea on user voice, I can bother our PMs, as I like to do, and just show up at their desk and be like, can you help me out here?
Yeah, they're tired of us asking for features, but if we can say, hey, somebody else outside Google asked for this, it carries a bit more weight.
So if people are curious what user voice is, it's here. You can go to firebase.uservoice.com and you can either upload any existing feature requests or you can enter your own feature requests here. And our PMs are closely monitoring this, and even our engineering directors, as I learned yesterday.
And then I believe, let's take, so James says, use appropriate cache control headers too,
Oh, yeah.
so the CDN can live its best life and reduce load on Cloud Run. There was some issues with health checks. Usually I only get those when I see the doctor, once or twice a year. But it sounds like this person might be seeing them in their app hosting backend pretty frequently. And this is using SvelteKit. So do you have any info on what they, hypothetically, just throw it out there, what do you think might be causing that? Could it be the port? Could it be something else? Could it be...
So the health check timeout is usually when Cloud Run tries to ping your server on the port that Cloud Run expects, and it doesn't get a response back. And so then it won't actually start routing traffic to your server because it thinks the server isn't running. It depends when you tried app hosting. So I believe the SvelteKit support was added kind of late last summer or something like that in 2024. So if you tried before that, Cloud Run probably had no idea what to do with it. If you tried a couple months ago and it didn't work, I don't know. That's pretty unexpected. So I'd say submit a support ticket and see what's up. But yeah, you might have just tried it before SvelteKit was added to Cloud Buildpacks.
Cool.
All right. Do we have any final questions we didn't get to? It seems like we've got most of them, right? All right. So with that, I think we can thank Jeff. People on the stream, why don't you just try the emojis and send a party popper to thank you, and we can clap. Thank you, Jeff, for coming on. That was really great, very impressive, as I said before. And yeah, so next time we'll have Rody on to talk about Firebase Studio. If you've got any other topics you'd like to see us cover, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Also, tell your friends if you like this stream so that they can join us next time around. And yeah, if you want to get in touch with the Firebase team, you can come to User Voice, you can come to our repositories. What else? We've got a couple of Discords, right? Is there a Discord for Firebase App Hosting, Jeff?
I don't. No.
Okay, so
the best way would.
Okay, so the best way would be to come to the repository.
To reach out?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think User Voice, the team watches that a lot. Yeah, there's the Firebase Framework Tools repository, so you could always file feature requests on there too, or bugs or whatever, yeah.
All right, great. Awesome. So thanks again, everybody. And if I find my mouse, I can actually click on the next button. So thanks, everybody. And we will see you around next time. Have a great rest of your day, wherever you are on the planet. Bye.